Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is an award-winning best-selling author and a staff writer at The New Yorker. The FX television series, based on his book Say Nothing, is streaming now on Hulu. Let's take a look.
But I would die for a united Ireland. I would die if I thought it meant the Brits would hesitate going to the grocers or sending their wee kids off to school in the morning. I would die. Listen, my whole family has suffered, and I just want that fear to live in their hearts too. You know?
Please welcome back to the show, Patrick Radden Keefe, everybody. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well.
I've been very lucky to talk to you about this book, Say Nothing, which came out years ago. And I had you on the show to talk about it. And then I recently had a guest on who was also a huge fan of the book, Dua Lipa. It was one of her book club selections for what's called Service 95.
Yeah.
And you actually heard that Dua Lipa wanted to contact you.
Yeah, it was a weird experience. I was at a party, a friend's birthday party on a Friday night, and I got a text from my agent in LA saying, Dua Lipa would like your phone number. Is it okay if we give Dua Lipa your phone number? And it's funny, I didn't think to ask why, I just said yes. You know, wasn't like, no, what's this about, you know, any of that. But then what was funny is she didn't call. And so I just waited. My wife, who's here, could testify to the fact that I basically spent the next several weeks like just waiting by the phone, you know, for this phone that didn't ring. But eventually, yes, she had me on the book club.
Oh, it's very fantastic. It's a wonderful book. And for those who don't know, because this is a fantastic adaptation, but tell us once again the thrust of the book.
So the book is called Say Nothing. It's about this woman who you just saw, Dolores Price, who was the first woman to join the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, in the early 1970s as a real frontline soldier. And so she was this kind of young radical who joined along with her sister, Marion, and they planted bombs in London, they went to prison, they went on hunger strike, they had this very dramatic life. And later on in life, she sort of looked back at some of the things she'd done when she was young with some misgivings, wondering, you know, what was it all for? And then there's another story threading through it, which is about a mother of 10, a woman named Jean McConville, who in 1972 was taken away from her children by a group of masked and armed people who said, we just want to talk to your mom for a few minutes, we'll bring her back, but they never did. And the children grew up orphaned, and she disappeared. It was this kind of mystery of the Troubles. And what I learned when I got started was that there was a connection between these two women. And so that's really the story, is of these young women who joined the IRA, and then this woman who is kind of an iconic victim of the Troubles, Jean McConville.
When you're doing reporting on something like this, and again, it's called Say Nothing because no one ever speaks about any of the things they did during the times or even after, it must be intimidating talking to people who have that shared history.
Yeah, there is this real sort of code of silence, which could, you know, it could create these situations which at times were somewhat scary for me. There's a funny story about, I ended up getting in touch with the brother of one of these IRA guys who's a character in the story. And the guy said, I'll give you an interview, but you have to come to me. And he lived in this tiny little town kind of on the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So really kind of a no man's land where the IRA used to be very active. And he suggested we meet at this pub. And I get there in my rental car, and it's like there's this pub and then there's nothing for miles around. It looks like high noon. It's just like this one freestanding pub. And the guy says, we'll sit out front, we'll sit on this, you know, at this picnic table, and you can interview me about all this IRA stuff that I'm really not supposed to be talking about. And I open up the door of the pub, it kind of creaks open, and I go inside, and there's like 8 guys in the pub, not together. 8 guys just individually sitting there with their, you know, like staring into their Guinness. And I order us drinks, I go out, and I start interviewing the guy, but I can see them looking out and wondering, like, what's this all about? You know, should he really be talking? I've got my notebook. He finishes his drink. He sends me in for another round. I go in, and this time they're really looking at me pretty hard. I order another round, I go out. And now they're looking out the window to see what's going on. He sends me in for another round. This time when I come out, the guys one by one walk out, and they make a kind of semicircle around us as we're talking. And you can imagine, I'm here with my notebook and my 3 Guinnesses, which I'm still sort of making my way through, trying to take notes and asking these questions. These guys are all staring at us. And they start asking, who am I? Where am I from? I'm from New York. what are you doing here? I'm working on a book. And one of them says, where are you staying? And I say, I'm staying in Dublin. And another one says, which hotel? And at this point, I'm like, I'm out of here. This is not good. And I say, okay, guys, listen, I really appreciate it. You know, thanks for the interview. I got to get going. I got to get back to Dublin. The sun's going down. I gather all my stuff up. I say, thanks for your time. Run to the rental car, open the door, get in, close the door, let out this huge sigh of relief. And then I'm looking at the dashboard because the steering wheel is on the other side in Ireland. And I have gotten in the wrong side. And there's this awful moment where I'm staring at the dashboard and I'm like, oh, I have to look up. And I slowly look up and they are cracked. These guys are on the ground laughing. They're cracking up. And I have to be like, I'm really leaving this time. You know, I get out and I go around the other side. So yes, some paranoid moments there, but some funny ones as well.
I like at that point, they're like, he's not worth our trouble.
Exactly, he's not, right, yeah.
This guy is not a problem. One of the things that the show and this casting especially really brings out is how young these people were, Dolores Price and her sister and Brendan Hughes. And it's an incredible job, I feel like, of just reminding us exactly how young these people were. Your children, who are backstage, are also very young, and they are fantastic in this show as extras.
The youngest cast members.
The youngest cast members. And we have a video. This is them seeing themselves for the first time in the show. And I just try to tune your ears in, and I think you'll be able to see the moment that Patrick's children recognize themselves. Let's take a look.
Carsey puts away for the day.
Just fantastic.
They stole the show.
They
would
stole
you
the
agree?
show.
Yeah.
Congrats again. I love the book so much. Adaptations of this kind of thing are so hard, and they just nailed it. Congratulations to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Patrick Radden, Keith, everybody at Backstage.